7:17. You know, this is the live picture we keep going back to this morning. This from the Supercenter in downtown Chicago, where people have been lined up for hours already, waiting for that moment for them to open to secure their real ID. You know, you have to have one at some point. There's one day before the deadline to get the real ID. It's a crucial piece of identification that you'll need to get past security before you fly this summer. But Secretary of State Alexi Giannoulias is here this morning to set some things straight for us. We appreciate you being here in person.
Thanks for having me.
What goes through your mind when you see that line?
That most people do not have to be in that line. May 7th is not a deadline. We will still continue to issue real IDs. Next week, for the foreseeable future, probably forever. So you do not have to wait in line. We have been screaming from the rooftops for folks to make sure they have the information they need. We introduced an interactive website, as you can tell, the first Real ID Supercenter in America. We opened up Saturday hours. We opened up 2,500 appointments, and we still can't handle this unprecedented demand, which is last minute. And the problem is, the biggest misnomer out there is that folks think that if they don't get it by tomorrow, they will not get one.
It's stopping.
That is not the case. So we're screaming from the rooftops. Don't worry, you can get one next week, you can get one the week after, and if you have a passport or global entry, you will be just fine.
Yeah, so there are other acceptable forms of identification that you can still take with you, but the TSA will no longer accept state-issued IDs that are not Real ID compliant at TSA security checkpoints. At this point, what percentage of travelers, I know you all keep some data here, what percentage of travelers in our state have a Real ID?
Yeah, so two more quick points on this. So because this is a national issue, what we're seeing across the country is this unprecedented demand. So in Florida, they're literally sleeping in their cars outside of DMVs. In North Carolina, they're sleeping in tents. They're spending the night outside trying to get their real ID. Again, the same issue. You don't need a real ID tomorrow. The other point is that TSA has told us there will essentially be a 2-year, what they're calling, enforcement period.
Okay.
So if you do not have a real ID, if you do not have a passport, if you do not have global entry, they will not kick you off a flight. You probably need to get there a little earlier, fill out some paperwork, but there is a 2-year enforcement period. So even if you don't have a real ID or a passport, you still will be able to get on a flight.
Okay, so you're saying if we go on the 8th and we don't have a real ID, so 7th is the deadline. If we go on the 8th to O'Hare or Midway and we don't have a real ID and you don't have a passport, you may be delayed but shouldn't be denied.
That's correct. That's according to Homeland Security. We believe them because the percentages nationally, half the people would not be able to get on a plane. So again, the other point that we want to make is if you're going today, you do not walk out with a real ID. If you go to our website, if you see our messaging on social media and elsewhere, you walk out with a piece of paper, your real ID doesn't come for another week or two. So if you're traveling on Saturday, you probably missed the boat already. But again, we're begging people not to go wait in line for something that they probably don't need when we will continue to be issuing them for the foreseeable future. The other challenge that we're facing is that because so many people are rushing this unprecedented demand, folks who need regular Secretary of State services are being crowded out. They can't get in, they can't make an appointment. So again, we're begging, we're imploring everyone to please make sure you really need one and that you need it today, but we will be issuing them forever.
Yeah. Let me go back to my question about the percentage of people who do have them. Do you know how many people in Illinois have been able to get them thus far? I mean, you've given the warning, if you will, for quite some years at this point. Do we know how many people have them?
We know that under 50% of folks who are eligible have it. I will tell you that the numbers we've been doing have accelerated that in a positive way, but again, with millions of people, it's tough to put a dent in demand, even with the first Real ID Supercenter in America, even with Saturday hours, even with opening up 2,500 more appointments a day. So we've been probably more proactive than any other state in America. It's still not enough, as you can tell, to put a dent in this demand. So if folks can be patient, if they can come in the next couple weeks, next couple months, especially if you're not getting on a plane, especially if you have a passport, that will make everyone's life easier, especially those who just need to renew a driver's license or need to get a vehicle sticker because it's crowding out other folks.
And let me ask you this just on a final note. It goes beyond airports. Where are some of the other places where people would need a real ID?
Right. So Homeland Security has told us that over the next few years, you're going to need it for a federal courthouse, federal buildings. You know, their guidance on that hasn't been as clear cut. My job as Secretary of State, even though it is a federal mandate and has nothing to do with us, the documentation requirements, et cetera, our job is to implement this law, which, by the way, has been around for a very long time. Folks have had years and years to get their real ID. So with, 36 hours left, there's no need to make a mad dash to the Real ID Supercenter or to a facility.
Except all the angry people in TSA when you're fumbling trying to get through.
Well,
that are also delayed.
People at TSA aren't very happy normally anyway.
Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your day. I'm sure it'll be busy.